I'm Jonathan. This is Krista. We're here to help you be a better landlord. All right, today we're going to talk about holdover tenants. First of all, what is a holdover tenant?
Sure. There's a lot of confusion around this term, but it is someone who is staying after the lease expires, and you don't want them to. That's
Okay.
really what it is boiled down.
Yes.
The lease has expired. They're still there. You might be wondering what to do next.
Yeah, so this is not something that a landlord wants. So I know a lot of people will have it in their lease that when the lease expires, say it's an annual contract, when the lease expires, then it goes month to month. But in that case, the tenant and the landlord would agree to it going month to month, and there might be a price increase, etc.
Yeah,
Holdover tenants, you don't want them to stay. Nobody's agreed to it, but they're staying anyway.
exactly.
So what is the difference between a squatter and a holdover tenant?
So a squatter traditionally doesn't have any tie to the property. They're just looking for an abandoned space to come in and usurp over time. A holdover tenant had a legal contract with the landlord at some point. It's just expired and they haven't moved out.
Gotcha. So if somebody has a holdover tenant and they are still willing to pay rent, should they accept that rent?
Not if you want them to leave, because if they start paying rent and you accept it, they are no longer trespassing. If you don't accept rent, then you have some legal options to push them out of the door if you would like.
Okay. What should a landlord do if they don't want somebody to become a holdover tenant?
Make sure that you have really good documentation in your lease that outlines what to expect from a non-renewal situation. It should let your tenant know how much notice they need to give you if they're not renewing the lease and how much notice you need to give them if the reverse is true. So I would say, first, check your local laws because it's going to dictate how much notice you're required to give each other, and then very clearly outline it for them in your original lease document, along with any kind of consequences that they could incur if they do not follow your guidelines in terms of letting you know in a timely manner, following local laws, and acknowledging receipt of a non-renewal notice if you send one over.
Gotcha. And so how should the landlord approach that non-renewal notice?
Sure. So you want to make sure that it includes all of the pertinent information, such as when the original lease expired, when you need the tenant to move out, any kind of ending sequences that need to be done, whether that is a final move-out inspection with you or scheduling it with your office, whatever that might be. And of course, the consequences if they do not move out on the date that you have outlined.
So at the end of a lease, most people put it in there that the lease could then become month to month. Should a tenant sign a new lease, though, even in that case?
I would say yes, might as well. Get everything documented, have a fresh signature. If there are any other rules or stipulations you want to put in, that's the time to do it. Get everything on board and then move forward with a smooth relationship with your tenant.
Are there any other ways that landlords could help prevent holdover tenants?
It is tricky because you won't know at the start of a lease necessarily how the person's going to behave at the end. But one good indicator of future behavior is past behavior. So I would say conduct a rigorous tenant screening process. You can find ours at TurboTenant.com. It gets all of the background information about a person so that you can go through and see if this has been a situation that's arisen before or otherwise nip any kind of bad behaviors in the bud by choosing the best fit for your rental.
And as we do every time we talk about screening, it's important to note that you should have the same process for every applicant.
Yes.
So if you're going to say you can't have any prior evictions, make sure you're doing that across the board.
Absolutely. And don't forget to follow up with previous landlords to hear about their experience moving that tenant out. That can be really illuminating.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for chatting with me about holdover tenants. If you out there have any stories of your own holdover tenants, leave them in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe.